Hello and welcome to the United Community Channel. My name is Jack and this is your latest Manchester United news, as the deal for Jim Ratcliffe to buy 25% of Manchester United is delayed. So we're going to get into that. Plenty to talk about in that scenario. We've also got something to talk about in relation to Sheikh Jassim. Fabrizio Romano stating that the Glazers never actually wanted to sell the club to him, and that he was never going to be able to buy it in the end. So we'll talk about that as well. We're also going to talk about injuries. Obviously, Manchester United, believe it or not, have got a game on Saturday. So we're going to be talking about injuries. Amrabat got injured, supposedly for his country, and has returned back to Manchester. So we'll talk about him. We'll talk about Rasmus Hojlund as well and the potential injury there. We do know he's had some back issues in the past, and he's talked quite openly about it in the past couple of days as well. We're going to look at maybe some incomings from Manchester United and maybe some of the players that we're potentially going to be linked with. Obviously, central midfield is an area that United are looking to probably expand on and improve over the next couple of transfer windows. So we'll get into that as well. And we're going to talk about potential outgoings as well. Some similar outgoings in relation to the summer. West Ham are looking at a couple of Manchester United players and are lined up for them as well. As usual, guys, please smash a like on the video. Please hit the subscribe button if you're new to the channel, and get your thoughts into the comment section below. As always, we run off of what you guys say as well. So get them in below. But look, we're going to start, of course, with obviously the takeover of Manchester United, and, well, the partial takeover now, we can say, and it's in relation to Jim Ratcliffe. And as you can see on the screen there, anybody watching on YouTube, the reasons why Sir Jim Ratcliffe's deal has been delayed in relation to the 25% takeover of the club. T2T, thanks for the gifts. Much appreciated, my friend. So, yeah, look, let's get down through it anyway. And look, the proposed deal for Jim Ratcliffe to assume 25% control of Manchester United will not be ratified by the club's board on Thursday, as had previously been expected. The Telegraph have revealed negotiations concerning the final details of the potential minority stake offer are still being thrashed out. It goes on to say that it means, according to the source close to the deal, there will be no decision this week. Previous timelines have been hopeful of confirmation coming on Thursday following the 12-strong board's pre-arranged meeting to potentially vote on the proposal. Well-placed insiders contend talks are progressing at a clip, however, indicating a deal is still within sight over the next fortnight. So, yeah, it goes on to say things like Radcliffe is thought to desire expediency in order to establish full control over the footballing operation at Old Trafford with ample time prior to the January transfer window. Obviously, this has been mentioned before as well, that the potential of a comprehensive restructuring at the executive level has been discussed also, with Ineos officials set to carry out a 100-day investigation of the current system at Manchester United. And it goes on to say then also that from today, there's 105 days left until the close of the January transfer window. So time is, of course, of the essence. And look, reports have suggested today as well that Jim Ratcliffe's plan is potentially 2026 as the kind of date and the year at which he will hold full control of Manchester United. That is his aim. That's what he wants to do. This 25% supposedly is his foot in the door, and to get his hands on the footballing side of Manchester United and hopefully improve that area. And if you improve that area, generally what happens is everything else at the club starts to improve as well. Revenue, sponsorship deals, players, so on and so forth. But there is going to be a lot of work, So while, the reason why this deal has been delayed is, they're working out the finer points of the details. Now, them finer points, what do they mean? Manchester United's market valuation is down 10% since the announcement of the Qatar withdrawal from the race. So does that mean that maybe Jim Ratcliffe is negotiating a better deal? Are the minority stakeholders saying, well, what are we going to get out of this? It's interesting. There's a lot of T's to be crossed and I's to be dotted, as they say. And I think, look, we mentioned it last night about Jim Ratcliffe coming in, and while it's not what anybody wants, I think the reason why it's not what anybody wants is because it keeps the Glazers on. And that's, no Manchester United fan wants that. And I think, him coming in and taking over the helm of the footballing side, it may be a positive, it may be a negative. I think I would lean on the side of positive. My reason being is that there has been no positivity on the footballing side of how Manchester United are run in the past 10 years. And we mentioned it last night that mainly because we've got businessmen making football decisions within the club. And that's the reason why, So I think this, look, I'm probably 99% certain that it is going to be Jim Ratcliffe that wins. There has been reports, suggesting that are the Qataris not actually out of the race? Is it a ploy from them to, maybe corner the Glazers into actually selling or accepting a bid? I don't know. I don't think so. I'm very skeptical on that one. I think it is going to be Jim Ratcliffe. I think we are going to see, and we are looking at on the screen there, anybody on YouTube, we are looking at a new minority stakeholder at the club who is going to be in charge of day-to-day matters. Look, there has been reports suggesting that he is going to, let me just bring up the actual article here, because I did see it earlier on. But, there is reports suggesting that he is going to, I suppose, make a lot of changes in the background in relation to, personnel at board level and things like that. Let me just, let me bring it in here and we'll see what the report actually says. So Old Trafford's behind the scenes shake-up. So Manchester United eye Paul Mitchell for top role as the red side of Manchester grapples with new ownership directions. Whispers from the hallowed Old Trafford suggest Paul Mitchell could be the very man to bring the glory days back, having paved the paths for Premier League legends like Dele Alli and Sadio Mane. Neither of them are legends, but could Mitchell be United's new orchestrator? Well, there we go. So, look, it says the billionaire's choice, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, Manchester United's very own billionaire. Well, he's not Manchester United's very own at the moment. Oh, sorry, Manchester's. He's looking inwards at the behemoth of Manchester United. Recent visits to the theatre of dreams gave him an intimate view of the club's struggles on and off the pitch, while the current leadership duo of John Murtagh and Richard Arnold have tried to put on a brave face post the departure of Ed Woodward. The club's Premier League position and recent Champions League struggle tell a different tale. Look, it's quite clear. As reported by iNews, Ratcliffe's confidence in the club's leadership was notably shaken during his visit. It seems he might want to steer the ship using trusted personnel and his proven methodologies. Enter Paul Mitchell. So, look, we know about Paul Mitchell. It does look potentially like, if Jim Ratcliffe is to be successful and, take over the footballing side of Manchester United, that he is going to bring in his own people. There's been talks of some of the Ineos people coming in that have worked with him at Nice and, of course, with Ineos as well. Paul Mitchell has been touted and supposedly does want a return to English football. And he had a lot of success at Southampton, you would say. I mean, Southampton were, maybe, 8-9 years ago, Southampton were the Brighton of the Premier League, where they found really, really good kind of unknown talents. The likes of Sadio Mane, obviously is a great example. And Paul Mitchell obviously worked quite close with Maurizio Pochettino at Southampton. He then moved to, obviously, Spurs with him. That's where Dele Alli came on the scene. Now, I don't think Dele Alli was a big, was something that, the world weren't aware of. And Paul Mitchell was, a genius on it. I don't think so. But he certainly does have a decent track record. Is he the man to come in to Manchester United and, do this kind of shake up? And, like the question I would ask is, the big question here is, Paul Mitchell is not going to change and turn Manchester United into a Premier League winning side. He's just not. A lot of other cogs and, turns and decisions all have to be made. Now, is it a positive step for him coming in and, having a role within the club? I think it is, but there's a lot of other issues at the club that need addressing as well, you would have to say. And I think if Jim Ratcliffe comes in and he does get full control over the sporting side and the football side of Manchester United, it can be a positive because, we know the Glazers haven't had, anywhere close to what is expected from fans and expected from a club like Manchester United, it has to be said. And I mean, if we look at this whole 2026 deadline, if you would say, for Jim Ratcliffe wanting to have full control over Manchester United, there's a lot of work that needs to be done between now and 2026. And I would presume that for Jim Ratcliffe to persuade the Glazers to part ways with the remaining percentage of the ownership that they've got, between now and 2026, we're going to have to improve the revenue coming into Manchester United. We're going to have to, maybe increase the price that Manchester United is worth, because if the Glazers don't get the money that they want, and we've seen it already in the past 7 or 8 months, then they won't leave. They'll just stay. They'll continue to take dividends out of the club. They continue to suck it dry. So Jim Ratcliffe is going to have an awful lot of work to do between now and 2026 if it is going to be a case that he takes over full control at that stage. Because at the moment, our recruitment is very poor. We overpay for players. We undersell players. Our scouting department is not good. But what kind of Manchester United is... What Manchester United are we going to see under Jim Ratcliffe? Are we going to see a continuation of signing 70, 80, 90 million pound players? Or are we going to maybe see a turn to maybe the likes of Brighton, where you might try and find players under the radar, get them in, develop them, Brighton, sell them on, and that's their business. That's their business portfolio, and it's how the club survives and makes money. Whereas Manchester United is a money-making machine as it is. You could get players in if you had the scouting system and the know-how to find these players, get them in under the radar for cheap, develop them, and all of a sudden you've got a really, really strong squad. And then players that you don't have to sell on, because Manchester United is not a selling club. Albeit, I would say also that we do need to improve on the selling side of the club as well, because we're very, very poor at getting money back for players that we've bought. It really is poor. And I think it's probably one of the main reasons why Manchester United are teetering on the brink of this financial fair play. And I think Manchester United generally have, over the last maybe 4 or 5 years, we generally have about 150 million to spend every summer. Now that's, 150 million without selling any players generally. If we got good at selling players, all of a sudden that increases to 200, 250 million, 300 million in a summer transfer window. You just don't know. And that will automatically accelerate the turnaround, if you might say. So, yeah, look, I mean, all of these things they're positive stories coming out, because we've had 10 years of mismanagement and 10 years of incompetency. So, to be linked with people like, Paul Mitchell, and there's reports of the Liverpool, one of the Liverpool head scouts, I think maybe, or director of football or something, being linked with United as well. So these are all positive things. It remains to be seen what Manchester United actually do and what control Jim Ratcliffe actually gets for his 25%. How is it going to work? We know that it's 65% or 69% of the club that the Glazers own. However, that 69% of shares is worth 90-something% of the voting rights. So if Jim Ratcliffe comes in with 25% and he says, I'm sacking this guy and I'm bringing in this guy, if he's got 25%, how much of the voting power does he actually have? Can he make them decisions himself? Or does it go back to the Glazers like Joel and Avram to go, no, we like him. Keep him. He's making us loads of money. So there you go. So let's see what happens. Let's get down through some of your comments here on YouTube and see what you have to say. Oshin says, is he bringing in a director of football? Yeah, we're speaking about that. Chris says, soon to be a new resident of Kilkenny. Glazers couldn't give a shiny shite. They want to keep fingers in the pie, says Oshin. Absolutely. Chris says, Murta and Arnold out. Let's see. Aaron says, could Qatar come in with a last hour bid and work with Jim? Well, I don't think that would work at all. I think it's going to be one or the other, Aaron. I think if Qatar come in with a final, 11th hour bid, then it's going to have to be a mammoth one for the Glazers to change their mind. But you would never say never. Niall says, when they're talking about Ali and Mane being legends, it shows the level we're dropping to. But I do think he would be an improvement on what we have. He overpaid for Casper, says Chris. Yeah, look, there's been a lot of talk as well about Jim Ratcliffe overpaying for players in the French league as well, taking players from the Premier League and so on and so forth. And I think that's just a premium you take when you're buying Premier League players and bringing them to a league like the French league. Oshin says, we've been overpaying for years. He'll fit right in. Chris says, that's what I am saying. At least recently, we've overpaid for younger talent. Increased revenue will only be done through winning. Yeah, I agree. Although, look, I mean, you look at the deals that Manchester United have been doing over the last 10 years since Alex Ferguson left. They've got better and better each year. I mean, just look at the Adidas deal that we've signed in the last few months, Chris says, Neymar done, did his ACL. Ooh, I don't wish that on anybody, but yeah. Let's see. Is this pre-recorded or has he stopped reading comments? Yeah, right. We're back to comments. Super chats. Daniel says, how do you feel that we are not getting Qataris, mate? Well, look, Daniel, we spoke about this last night, and we spoke about this in depth, obviously, over the last maybe 7 or 8 months. I wasn't overly pushed about being a state-backed club. I really wasn't. Now, I did want Qatar to win the race to buy Manchester United. And the reason for that was because we wanted the Glazers out. We wanted a full sale. We wanted the Glazers gone. We want, just a complete reset at the club, a complete reset. So I think that was the reason for Manchester United fans wanting Qatar more than anything else, Good question. I think he said, there we go. Super chat from Chris. He says, checking to see if you've turned into Goldbridge, only reading super chats. YouTube have made a lovely new feature on the live setup behind the scenes that I have, where I can filter the chats to super chats only. So there you go. Fan funding chats, which are super chats, super stickers, and channel membership gifting. So if you're not fucking careful, that's what'll be happening. I won't be reading out any chats. But anyway, there we go. Appreciate the super chat, Chris. Absolute legend as always. And T2T, thanks for the gifts as well. Much appreciated. Let's see what people on TikTok are saying here. I heard Sir Jim purchase 25% was delayed. Yeah, we just spoke about that. Is it the end of Manchester United? Absolutely not. And this is something that's been doing the rounds, over the last few days, and ever since this has been announced. Manchester United are finished. Manchester United are over. RIP Manchester United. Manchester United have been through a hell of a lot worse. Manchester United had half of their team, die on an airplane on the tarmac in Munich. So, we've been through an awful lot worse than the announcement that's come in the past few days. It's not what we wanted to hear, but Manchester United is too big. It's too important. It's too magical to go away. And I don't think it ever will. So I wouldn't be overly concerned about that. Jock says, Paul has had some good signings, and for once it would be a footballing person making footballing decisions. There we go. Daniel says, I don't want Sir Jim at my club. Well, see, the thing about it is, Daniel, and we mentioned this last night as well. What is it now? It's October. So 14 months ago, so August of 2022, initial reports that come out that Jim Ratcliffe wanted to buy Manchester United before the Glazers announced that they wanted to sell it. And every Manchester United fan in the world was saying, Jim Ratcliffe, come save us. Please buy the club. Please help us get the Glazers out. Fast forward 14 months later, and now he is the enemy. Now, I can understand why people will say that, because he has kept the Glazers there when we were that close to getting rid of them. But if in 2026 he does succeed with a full takeover, okay, it's going to take a little bit longer than expected. But would you take Jim Ratcliffe as full owner in 3 years' time? Or would you take the Glazers to stay for the next 10 years? You know, so while I do agree that it's not the ideal scenario, there is light at the end of the tunnel, if you could say that. You know, I would take Jim Ratcliffe as a full owner in 3 years' time and a part owner now over the Glazers being here in 10 years' time. I think it's quite clear and it's quite obvious that you know, and I think the majority of Manchester United fans, that would be the case, you know. But anyway, let's see what other people are saying here. Chris says, as long as he supports what Erik ten Hag wants to do, I will give him a shot. Look, that's all we can ask for. What did we say so many times on this channel over the last 7 or 8 months? It was basically, and this was before, you know, initially when Jim Ratcliffe announced that he was looking to take, you know, he was interested in Manchester United, it was going to be to buy the Glazers' share of the club. And we always said over the last few months that all we can expect as fans from the owners and the people who run the club is competency and, you know, the club first. That's all we can ask for. If they do the right things, if they, you know, put the right people in the right areas, if they make the right decisions, if they have a vision for how they want Manchester United to be in 5 or 10 years' time, you know, I'm all for that. All we can ask for as fans is to have owners who are competent and who want the best for the club. And if Jim Ratcliffe is that man, then okay, I'll give him a shot. You know, it might mean the Glazers are here for another 2 or 3 years, but I'll give him a shot. I'll give him a shot. I really will, because we've spent too long now chasing our tails and taking one step forward just to take 2 steps back. And it's time for a change, whether that be a small change now for a big change in the future. I'm okay with that. I did want a full sale and I wanted the Glazers gone, and we were that close. But this is better than nothing, in my opinion. It really is. So yeah, let's see. Yes, I would take Sir Jim over the greedy Glazer, says Daniel. Ben says, Qatar was our dream move. We just end up to be happy with what we've got and give him a chance. Oshin says, Mrs. 442 said, you're looking well for a lad with a newborn in the house. She's also said he clearly isn't getting up in the night. No, I don't have to do the feeds, let's put it that way. Thankfully, women are fantastic people that produce their own milk. So 7 hours. That's all I say. Jeez, don't say that too loud. She'll fucking kill me. Anyway, little lad is doing great. Anyway, thanks be to God. Let's see what people are saying on TikTok before we get on to some other news here. Rinny says, did the meeting happen yet between Qatar and all that? I'm not sure what meeting that is. Let's see. What have we got here? The Celtic Warrior says, do you think the Qatar owners will try to buy another Premier League club? Well, reports have suggested today, I can't remember where they actually came from, but supposedly, you know, whether Qatar as a nation state come back in for another club, that remains to be seen. But supposedly Sheikh Jassim doesn't want to buy another club. Whether that remains to be true or not, I don't know. But supposedly it was Manchester United or nothing for him. So, I think it's probably only a matter of time before we do see another state-owned club within the Premier League, because the Premier League is the biggest club in the world, and it has, the most money and has the most spotlight on it. So, yeah, I don't know. Let's see what happens. Anyway, look, let's move it on and let's talk about, I suppose, the current climate of the club at the moment and what's happening. Josh says, do you think Jazim will come back in with a shock bid and hijack it off Jim Ratcliffe? Congratulations on the birth of your baby, by the way. Appreciate it, Josh. I mentioned it already. I will never say never. Whether he does come back in or not, that will remain to be seen. I think it is highly unlikely, but you never know. The board were supposed to meet tomorrow. That's obviously not happening now because they're supposedly trashing out the finer details of this 25%, whether they voted in or not. Is that maybe a smoke screen for the Glazers saying, let's give it another week? See, does Qatar come back in? I don't know. We'll have to see. Anyway, let's talk about the current Manchester United squad and some injury issues. Obviously, Rasmus Hojlund accuses San Marino of trying to injure him. And I've got some positive and negative things to say about this story. So, obviously, Denmark were playing San Marino last night and they beat him quite comfortably in the end. But for any of you who didn't see it, go and check it out on Twitter or YouTube, wherever. Rasmus Hojlund gets a knee straight in the back. It's a terrible, terrible challenge from a 41-year-old player for San Marino. I think is he a postman or something? I read it today somewhere. And terrible, terrible challenge. And he should have got a straight red card for it. He only got a yellow card. It was an absolutely terrible challenge. It really, really was. And but anyway, Rasmus Hojlund didn't have or didn't hold back when he was talking about the incident. Let's see what he has to say here. So obviously he came out and spoke with an interview after the game, and then he took to Instagram after it as well. He says, "We do so much every day to be the best version of yourself and keep fit for so many games. This behavior from San Marino last night, trying to injure me, was unacceptable." The 20-year-old posted on social media the morning after the incident. Speaking to Danish media as well, he says, "I understand Italian and I could hear several of them running around and saying nasty things to me. They also pushed and hit me while grabbing me extra hard. When we scored, I was shown a card, then obviously couldn't handle it, and then they started pushing and things like that. It was 100% them who started, and then the game just ran." Then they ended up taking it to the next level as they had nothing to lose. So, look, I mean, while it was a really, really poor challenge on Rasmus Hojlund, I'm not a big fan of him coming out and complaining about this, to be honest. Whatever about answering a question in a post-match interview, fine, no problem with that. But to take to Instagram and to moan about it, it's the modern day player. It is. I love Rasmus Hojlund. Scored a great goal last night and actually played really well last night against that. Now, look, obviously it's a San Marino that he's playing against, but he done the basics well and scored his goal really well. I'm not into this whole moaning and giving out about challenges that go in against you, because it's a contact sport. I don't condone the knee in the back. That's, completely out of line. Absolutely. But grabbing you hard and, pushing you and tackling you and challenging you, it's all part of the game. The actual San Marino player come back out, had his response today to Rasmus Hojlund. And he said, "Today I read the 80 million euro player complained about being mistreated yesterday by the San Marino defenders." He said, "Well, my dear, probably in today's football where physical contact has disappeared, you can afford to make fun of us little opponents with ugly gestures or to fake at every opportunity, hoping for a penalty from VAR. I have to agree with him in the whole, in today's football where physical contact has disappeared. I have to agree with him when it comes to that, because it has disappeared in the game. The game has gone very soft, and there's not as much contact in it anymore. And for that reason alone, I think Rasmus Hojlund probably should have just, took a couple of bruises and got on with it. I don't think there is any concern around Rasmus Hojlund in relation to the injury. He did mention that he's got back issue. He had a previous back issue, and obviously your man need him in the back. But all you're really going to be doing there is you're going to be drawing more attention to it, and you're going to have opposition players now. I won't say targeting you, because they've all known that you've had, you had a back injury before he signed for United. Anyway, this is not, by the way, a major concern for Rasmus Hojlund. He doesn't have ongoing back issues. This is just, he had a back injury at the end of last season, and he got a knee in the back last night. So, and I think it was just the fact that he made a big deal out of it, that it's after, highlighting it more than anything else. There's also been concern over Sofyan Amrabat in relation to him. Now, he has withdrawn from the Moroccan squad again. He returns to Manchester United with injury after withdrawing from the squad. He did not feature for Morocco over the international break after missing matches against Ivory Coast and then Liberia due to the injury. So this is a big concern for Manchester United. Now, I don't know the extent of the injury, whether it is, I think he did have a back injury as well. And it hasn't been made clear on what the actual injury is, what the concern is. I'm sure we will find out, with Ten Hag's interview, post or pre-match interview. I think it's on Friday. So we'll find out more at that stage. But this is concerning because we've got Casemiro, who I think did he miss out, or he played, or came off injured, or he played every minute of Brazil's game. So he's running on empty at the moment. I think it's been quite clear that Casemiro has looked quite jaded so far this season due to a hectic schedule last year and a World Cup in the middle of last season, and maybe a shorter downtime and a pretty grueling preseason tour as well. So Sofyan Amrabat picking up another injury is exactly what we do not want. And I think if that is the case, then I think Manchester United struggles are going to continue on the pitch for, I mean, we've got Sheffield United on the weekend. Obviously, they're bottom of the table, so that is probably the best you could ask for in terms of a fixture coming back from an international break. But we go into the Copenhagen game midweek in the Champions League then next week. That is a must win if we're going to have any hope of getting out of the group. And then we go into Man City next weekend. We've got Manchester City next weekend. So the games are coming thick and fast, and they're going to start getting very important as well. And we're lingering in 10th position at the moment, So, I mean, if we're looking at the league table here, Manchester United being in 10th, I think pretty much sums up what we've been this season. We've been bang average. We've beaten the teams that we should be beating, and we've lost against the team. We've beaten the teams below us in the league, and we've lost to the teams above us in the league, pretty much. But in saying that, we are only 5 points off of the top 4. We're 4 points behind Aston Villa in 5th, and also 4 points behind Brighton in 6th. So 3 points is a must on the weekend. It really is. And injury concerns when it comes to the likes of Amrabat and when it comes to the likes of Casemiro, I don't know what way he's going to come back. Is he going to come back fully fit? I don't know. I do hope he does, but yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. Someone is asking for the women's result. So Manchester United lost 3-1 to Paris Saint-Germain in Paris tonight. They get knocked out 4-2 on penalties. That is the qualification second round, so I'm not 100% sure what that is. Are they out now, or I'm not 100% sure, but they did lose out 4-2 on aggregate there as well. So anyway, moving on, and if we're talking about central midfield and central defensive midfield, there has been a Sorry, now let me just get up the right one here. I've actually got. Sorry, we'll talk about centre back for the moment here, because obviously Manchester United are also in the market. You would expect, whether that be January or whether that be next summer, that Manchester United will be in the market for another central defender. I think Ten Hag made it quite clear that summer just gone that he did want one, and it all came down to whether we could get Harry Maguire to leave or not, and he didn't leave, so we didn't get one. Reports today are suggesting that Manchester United could turn their attention to Crystal Palace's Guehi. So when it comes to a centre-back option going forward. Crystal Palace and the Three Lions defender Gay seems to be on Manchester United's radar. The Red Devils' ambition is to bolster their defence with Gay's prowess, but it's not about wanting him, it's about needing him to plug the gaps in the beleaguered defence. Competition does loom, however, that Manchester United aren't alone in this pursuit. Premier League giants Liverpool, Newcastle, Arsenal and Spurs are also vying for Gay's signature, and why wouldn't they? The English international's current contract with Crystal Palace extends till 2026, making him a prized catch. So yeah, Manchester United are in the market for a centre back. Again, you would hope that we're potentially going to get players off the books, especially when it comes to defenders. And none more so than Harry Maguire. Reports today as well are also suggesting that West Ham are leading the race for Harry Maguire. The Manchester United defender could leave the club in the upcoming transfer window in January, and he has been linked with a number of Premier League clubs. Now, this is on the back of him actually saying that he's going to sit down and talk with the club in the coming weeks if his game time doesn't improve and doesn't increase. Sorry, Harry, but I mean, what in the name of Jesus were you expecting? We all said this at the start or at the start of the season, at the end of the transfer window, when you stayed because you wanted to fight for your place, and it had nothing got to do with United not paying you out to go. You're not good enough, and your game time was going to be limited. So, yeah, I think he's kind of seen the writing on the wall, but whether he does go or not. But look, a report from Football Insider claims that West Ham United are currently leading the chase for the 60-cap England international, and it remains to be seen how the situation unfolds. Signing Maguire during the January transfer window will not be easy because the player is happy to stay at Old Trafford. The report claims any move in January is likely to be a loan move with an option to buy. Now, a loan move wouldn't help Manchester United unless we can get a replacement in, because we are stretched thin at centre-back at the moment, as we see. We've got Varane can't stay fit for a full season. That's quite clear. We've got Lisandro Martinez is out, until I think mid-December. It's looking like Varane and Lindelof at the moment. Maguire is there. We've seen Luke Shaw play ahead of him last season. So I think if Maguire is to leave in January, it would be a case where Manchester United would have to buy a replacement before we could let him go, because we just haven't got the numbers there. We really, really, really don't. While we're on the West Ham trail here, they also could be willing to pay up to 60 million for 26-year-old Premier League ace Scotty Too Hotty. Scott McTominay has been linked with a move away from the club. The 26-year-old Scottish international has fallen down the pecking order at Old Trafford. He needs to play regularly at this stage of his career, and West Ham are prepared to provide him with an exit route. So, yeah, reports are suggesting it could be up to 60 million for Scott McTominay. I'll take not just the hand, I'll take the arm and all off you. But, Scott McTominay keeps scoring goals, and doing what you're doing, because all it's doing is adding a couple of million onto your price tag each time you do that. So I do think Manchester United are going to look to offload him, if not in January, definitely next summer, and reinvest the money we can get back into the squad, because we need central midfielders. And again, like with the Harry Maguire situation, we also need defenders. So if we could get him off the books, it would, generate some good money there towards actually improving the squad. Let's see what people are saying here. Reece says, take the days of Beckham and Roy Keane at United. Imagine those tackles and that roughness today. They wouldn't be able to handle it. Chris says, agree with physicality is gone, but we won't get it back. Unless the rules change, Chris. Yeah, unless the rules change, we're not getting physicality back into the game. But what sport have you seen physicality ever go up? You know, you look at even the likes of rugby, which is a vicious sport. There's a lot of safety precautions that are there now. You can't do what you used to be able to do in it. You know, while rugby is a sheer contact sport, it's less of a contact sport now than it used to be, you know, but probably for the better than for the worse, you know. Oshin says, see, Wales want Roy Keane to take over from Page when he leaves. I did hear that, yeah. I did hear that. Bit of a, I don't know, would he want, maybe he would want it. I don't know. Let's see. Chris says, we wasted our money on Mount, 60 or 70 million for him. Give him time. Give him time. Give him time. I still think he could have a good role to play at United. Reece says he's actually been playing great recently. Harry has. He's made no mistakes. Played the whole game for England last night and had played all right for United with that assist to Max to Max McTominay too. Yeah, look, I do agree over the last few games that Harry Maguire has played. Harry Maguire has played really well for Manchester United over the last couple of games that he's played. But the problem has never been 1 or 2 games for Maguire. There's been loads of times where he's played, you know, well for a game here, a couple of games there. It's the consistency levels. You need to be playing well for 7, 8 months, you know, with the odd poor game in between. Look at Lisandro Martinez last season, for example. He had a really, 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 really good season. Now, there were a couple of games, you know, sprinkled throughout the season where he didn't play well. But we're talking about Harry Maguire having a couple of good games sprinkled in to his Manchester United career. He's not good enough, and it is time to move him on. But, you know, if he does continue to have these, you know, good games when he does get minutes, then it will only increase the value that maybe we get for him when we do inevitably sell him on in the summer, hopefully. Let me see what other people are saying here. Niall says, heard somewhere today Maguire's been linked with AC Milan. There has been links with AC Milan as well. Yep, there has. I don't know what, I suppose, substance is there. The reports are quite vague, in fairness. To be honest with you, I think the Italian league for Harry Maguire would suit him down to the ground. I mean, look at what Chris Smalling done. You know, the Italian league is quite different to the English league, where, you know, very rarely do Italian teams defend from the halfway line. They play deep, you know, with a lot of space in front of them. You know, they like to, you know, their vision, their field of view, you know, their you know, how they read the game is quite different. And I think that suits Harry Maguire. I think Harry Maguire's reputation and why it was so good before he came to Manchester United was on the basis of him playing in a side like Leicester and Hull, who play on the edge of their box with everything in front of them. You know, you're not having to chase balls in behind and worry about, you know, where do I go when I turn and this and that. And everything is in front of you. Whereas when you're at Manchester United, you're on the halfway line and the ball is played in behind you. You're going, oh, bollocks, you know, and all of a sudden, you know, you're like a curly whirly trying to get back, you know. So that's why Harry Maguire is, you know, his career at Manchester United hasn't been, you know, hasn't gone well. You know, I think it's pretty straightforward, you know. I love that little curly whirly analogy. I have to say, that came straight into my head. Anyway, smash a like on the video, guys. If you haven't done so, hit subscribe and hit the like button as well. If you haven't done that as well, I do appreciate it. Reece says, did you see the performance of Rashford last night? Yeah, absolutely, I did. Hopefully that'll be the catalyst for him now to kick on and you know, get back to what he was last season, because we certainly need it. Chris says, people are bragging about Maguire playing well against Brentford without Ivan Toney. Brentford parked the bus. Great performance from Rashi, says Chris. Don't know if I mentioned this before. England going to the Euros. I think we'll finish up now. I think we'll finish up now. But anyway, Rich is in, says, how's thing, lad? Up the United. Up United. God. Have you played any soccer in your lifetime? I have, Martin. I've played since I was 7 years of age. I retired last year. About 18 months ago. So I was 32 when I retired. So I played for 25 years. I'm still playing pub league at the moment, which is like night owls, they call it, where we're from. So yeah, I do still play it. Centre mid, little pearl up, pinging balls left and right. So yeah. Anyway, guys, that's everything for tonight. I do appreciate you all watching and listening. Anybody that wants to check out any of these, I suppose, news shows as well, they are uploaded as a podcast to our Spotify channel as well. So if anybody on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcasts, check out United Community Podcasts. Give us a subscribe. Leave us a 5-star review. If you can't get these to the news shows live every night at 9 o'clock with us, you can catch them on wherever you listen to your podcast and listen back to them. So it's handy for them there as well. There are some of them that are behind a paywall of $2.99. So if that's something that you do want to do to support the channel, by all means, you can do that as well. But the majority of them are free to listen to. So go check them out as well. I do appreciate it. But guys, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Thanks for all of your input in the chat. Our match preview will be going up tomorrow around 4 o'clock on YouTube. So anybody on TikTok, if you haven't already done so, please do subscribe to the YouTube channel. You know, a lot of our content is done over there only. So make sure you're checking that out as well. Like I said, our match preview will be up over there tomorrow. Predicted 11, score predictions, all of that good stuff will be there. So looking forward to getting into that. And then, of course, we do have the watch along coming up on Saturday. Manchester United have actually got a football match to play, you know, after all of the negativity in the last few weeks. Again, look, we'll be back tomorrow night again, guys, from 9 o'clock for all the latest Manchester United news. So please do join us there as well. Thanks for listening. Have a good evening. Stay safe, and I'll catch you tomorrow. Take it easy.